Oh, hang on. Anyway, that's what happened. Here are the trays, you know, for these. Hey y'all, Amy here. Welcome back to the farm. Today I'm finally getting around to starting some seeds. I know. For my area, I'm really late getting started, but I'm not too late. So I figured I'd do it today and I'd bring y'all along and show you what I'm doing. So let's go. Okay, I'm out in the back shed and I'm going to do it here. I keep my seeds in the house as they're growing and then my seedlings, but to actually do the planting part, I do it out here because it gets really messy. So that's why we're out here. Now, I typically plant in containers like this. I happen to have a whole bunch of these drilled holes in the bottom and they work just fine. There are lots of locations where you can get seed starting things. I haven't ever done soil blocking, which I think would be great. I eventually want to get to that. I just don't have a soil blocker, so this is what I use because this is what I have. Now, the reason I plant in such big containers to start with is so I don't have to transplant and upsize the planters later. I could plant in, hang on. I have them somewhere. Oh, they're over there. Hang on. I could plant in little things like this. I have plenty of those. And I could plant in other things, but for what I'm starting today, which is going to be tomatoes and peppers, I like to plant them in something bigger so that I don't have to transplant into something bigger later. You can use red solo cups. You can use any type of over here. Things like, I just happen to have these over here. Sour cream containers, plastic containers, anything you have that you can poke a hole in the bottom that a plant can grow in, you can use them, y'all. It doesn't have to be specifically for growing planters that you buy at the store. It really doesn't. You can start them in just about anything. Some things you can start in egg cartons. I would not advise that personally. Because you have to transplant them so fast, because those tiny little areas in an egg carton is going to get root bound real quick, and it dries out really fast because it's such a small area. Which leads me to another reason why I like the bigger containers. They don't dry out as fast, so you don't have to water as often. I'm a pretty busy person, and so I would like to be able to just water one time a day and be good, and a bigger container allows me to do that. The soil that I'm going to be using is just an organic all-purpose potting soil. I don't use a seed starting soil, which is going to be much finer, softer soil. I found that potting soil works just fine, and when you get a potting soil or use a potting soil, it already has food in it. It's already got food for your seedling. The seedling is going to be fine for a couple of days, but then you're going to have to feed it if you put it in just a seed starting mix that doesn't have any plant food in it. I learned from Jessica Sowards over at Roots and Refuge that if you just use a potting soil to start with, it saves you a lot of time and it works just as well. So I started doing that, and that's what I have come to prefer. Now, you don't want to use your garden soil to start seedlings. While that may work for some, it's usually too heavy and too dense of the soil for the seedling to actually grow well. It gets very compacted and heavy in these. So I just buy a potting soil, an organic potting soil, and that works well for me. One of the first things that I'm going to do before I start filling my pots with soil is I'm going to pre-moisten the soil. I just put it in a 5-gallon bucket and spray some water in it and mix it up and pre-moisten soil. So let's go do that. Okay, so I'm going to be telling you what seeds I'm going to start first before I do it. Let's go over that. I'm only starting 4 different kinds of tomatoes. Okay, I am going to do the watermelon beefsteak from M.I. Gardener. I am going to do the striped Roma from M.I. Gardener. I am going to do the Amish paste from Haas and the red snapper from Haas. That's all I'm doing. Last year I did a bunch of heirloom tomatoes from Baker Creek. Actually, I've done that for the past couple of years. I haven't had a successful tomato year in a while, so we're gonna change things up this year and we're gonna do something a little different. I bought like big boys and early girls and things like that last year from a box store, in addition to my heirloom seeds from Baker Creek. Nothing did well. None of those box store ones did well. None of my heirloom ones did well. And these 2 from M.I. Gardener are heirlooms. And these 2 from Haas are not. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know if the Amish paste tomato is, I don't think this is a determinate. I think it's indeterminate, but it may not be. I don't know. I know this one's determinate. And both of these are indeterminates. So we're starting something this year that I've never planted before. We're trying all new tomatoes because everything that I've planted in the past have failed, except for one time. And when I say in the past, I mean at this location. We've been at this farm. This will be my 4th spring planting here. So the past 3, I've only had one type of tomato in the past 3 years, 3 springs do well. And that was a box store type of tomato, very similar to this one. It was a determinate. It was very similar to this red snapper tomato. So I'm going to probably buy one of those or 2 of those to put in with these. We're going to see how it goes. I don't know. I've planted them in different locations. I've done partial sun. I've done full sun. I've done different areas. I've done a heavily composted area. I've done a not so heavily composted area. I've composted with cow. I've composted with rabbit. I've done different types, and then I've added egg, and I've put an egg in the hole, and I've not put an egg in the hole. And there's y'all, I've done all the things, and I know that normally failure with tomatoes has to do with a lack of nutrients in the soil. I don't know that I have any. Hold on, I do have some. I've used this. This has got a hole in it. Got several holes in it. I don't know why. This is from last year. I've used fertilizers and things because like all natural composting and newer and things were not working. Y'all, I've done all the things. For 3 years I've done the things and I can't get a good crop of tomatoes. So that's why this year we're doing 4 different types of tomatoes. I really need these paste type tomatoes to do well because we use so many tomato products, and I had to use right down the road. My friend Courtney grew bukus of tomatoes, and she was kind enough to gift me tomatoes, and that's what I was able to use, the majority of them, to put up last year for some canned tomatoes to last us like maybe a month. It wasn't even enough for a month. So anyway, my tomato drama. So point is, these are the 4 tomatoes that I am starting. These are the only 4 tomatoes I am starting, and I am going to do a bunch of them, and I am going to pray that they grow. And I should note in here for all my tomato people who are going to give me advice, my tomato plants themselves flourished amazingly. They were big, they were great. Most of them, some of them did not, but the majority of them were amazing tomato plants. and big and healthy. And then the tomatoes, before they would ripen on the vine, they would rot. And it wasn't blossom end, it wasn't pest related that I could tell. They would develop spots all over them, and then they would just like rot from the inside out, basically. I did so much research on diseases and things that could be causing this. I used DE. I used neem oil. I used a neem oil concoction. I used picking pests off. I used soap. I did different things for like pests, different things for like funguses, different things for like different things for different things, and 3 years of rotting tomatoes before they even, right as they just start to turn. And some of them I was able to pick last year and put on the windowsill in my kitchen, and they turned on the windowsill. But y'all, a tomato ripening from green to red on a windowsill does not have that same rich flavor as it would vine ripened. Y'all know that. So anyway, that's what happened. That's what's been happening. And that is why I'm starting just 4 types of just 4 tomatoes, which are not really 4 types. There's 2 are similar, and then 2 are pretty similar. So that's what we're doing with tomatoes. And we're gonna really hope that it works. And if there is any type of amendment that I can add to the soil, if what I'm describing sounds like something familiar to you and sounds like you maybe know the answer to what's happening, let me know. I may have already tried it. Chances are I probably did. But if I didn't, I will try it. I will try it, y'all. Tomatoes are one of my most favorite things. And I would really, really, really like to grow a bumper crop of tomatoes. Okay, I keep bending down because this table is down here, and so I put the camera lower, and that's not really working out too well. We're just gonna do it like this, and I'm gonna get on my knees. How about that? Does that work? Does that work? Okay, we're gonna get on my knee for a minute while I show you my peppers, because we're moving on from tomatoes. All right, last year I grew these. I don't know how to pronounce that one. And I grew Tabasco. This was a hit. Of course, my husband loves peppers. He makes hot sauce. We like peppers here. So I grow a lot of peppers, and we make a lot of things with peppers, and I dry peppers, and I make my own like seasonings and stuff. I'm gonna grow this one, this lilac bell pepper. Isn't that pretty? I think it's gonna be pretty. I can grow peppers, y'all. Of all the things that I grow, peppers I can grow. As long as I can keep the soil well drained, which is an issue here, y'all, because it stays so wet, but that's why I grow in raised beds for the majority of my stuff. And then I'm gonna grow this one, another bell pepper. And then I'm gonna grow a cayenne pepper, but purple one, because why not? Because it looks fun. And then I'm gonna grow a Black Hungarian, which this is a wax pepper, and my husband's not super fond of wax peppers, but I thought it was really cool. And then like the dark color we could add to like some other hot sauces to like change up the color just for the fun of it. Of course, giant jalapenos, because we love jalapenos. My husband makes a jalapeno lime hot sauce that is my favorite. So I'm gonna grow a lot of these. And then I saw this one from Baker Creek, and this looked really cool. This lemon jalapeno, a lemon spice jalapeno. I'm excited about that one too. So those are the peppers that I'm gonna grow this year. And so I don't have as much space for peppers as I do for tomatoes, and I don't really need a ton of pepper plants. So I'm gonna do just a couple of each. Every time that I have extra of anything that I don't have space for, I just share it, because I have people that I'll share it with. And then a couple of these tomatoes that I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna share with my dad, because he is recently retired and doing a garden this year. And so of course I'm gonna fill his garden with everything that I can, because I love it, and I'm excited for him to grow a garden. He used to a long time ago. He hasn't done it for a while. And so I'm like, yes, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, so now I'm gonna fill my pots. Oh, hang on. Okay, so another thing real fast. These are the pots that I've used, and for the past couple of years I use them. And I don't think you can see this. Can you see that? Can you kind of tell that it has writing on it? This says paste. This was one of the ones that I had a paste tomato in. They're all written on twice. And they're written on, and then I marked it out, and then I wrote on it again with something else. It's very hard to see unless you're in good light. And the year before, the very first year I used them, I used a like a little marker wooden stick thingy that I wrote on that I put in there, and that didn't work as well because children, these are kept in the house, and you know, a child, especially when Levi was little, you know, that was fun. You pull it out, and mix it up with other ones. So I gotta figure out how to label these before I get started, because labeling is important. I'm thinking I might go find some tape. Just stick a piece of tape on here and write on that. The only thing is when the jar gets wet, just a minute, Lace, when the jar gets wet, or the pot gets wet, then the tape peels off. Let me figure out what I'm gonna do, and then I'll be back. Just using some duct tape and taping it on there because I figured duct tape will stick pretty good. Even if it gets wet, it should be fine. So I'll do the duct tape and then I'll write on it, and there we go. So I've got my bucket of soil down here, and I'm gonna go ahead and start filling my pots. I fill them for this, I fill them right to the rim there. And then I'm going to fill several pots, and then I'll plant them. I have my pots for my tomato plants filled. I filled them to this rim here. I'm going to put my seeds in, and then I'm going to put a little bit more soil back over the top. Now, I know how many plants I can fit in the space that I have, but I haven't decided how many of each thing I'm going to plant yet. So sometimes I plan things out really well, and sometimes I don't. Okay. So what I think I'm going to do, I want the most of the aroma and these paste tomatoes. So the Amish paste and the striped aroma. These two I want the most of, because hopefully this will be what I'm using to make my tomato sauces and spaghetti sauces and pizza sauces and all the sauces with this. And I'm gonna do not as many of these. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with these. The red snapper and the watermelon beefsteak. And we're gonna do a few each of those. I think I'm gonna do maybe 4 of the watermelons and maybe 6 of the red snappers. The best way to think about it, the seed depth, if you don't know for sure what you're doing, is double the size of the seed. So double the depth that the size of the seed is. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm not gonna pat down hard, just like barely, a little bit. We're gonna set these aside and then plant more. So I like to do 3 or 4 seeds per pot, and then I just snip the little ones off, and I leave the best one to grow. The red snappers, there was only a few seeds to a packet, so I had to do fewer seeds per one. So hopefully they grow. It says germination rate is 93%. So that's not bad. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go do the watermelon, and I'm gonna do 3 seeds per container. And I think I'm gonna do, how many of these should I do, Lacey? I don't need a ton of these. I think I might just do 3. I'll do 4.
I was gonna say 4.
I'll do 4. And then just put the rest back in here. The dates that are going to be on your seed packets. What does this one say? This one at the bottom here, it says packed for 2024. That's not an expiration date. That doesn't mean that it's going to expire. Seeds don't expire. Their germination rate goes down as the years go by and depending on how they're stored. But it's packed for 2024, but I can use this next year, and then the next year, and then the next year, depending on if I still have them, if I still need them, and how well they grow here. All right, so I have 12 more containers left, and I'm gonna do 6 of the striped aroma and 6 of the paste. Okay, now I'm on to peppers. I'm gonna do 2 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these, 4 of these, 2 of these, 4 of these, 4 of these, and 2 of these. Okay, so your pepper seeds specifically, most tomato seeds and pepper seeds, but specifically the pepper seeds, need really, really warm temperatures to germinate. What I have done before in the past is I've set them on top of a refrigerator or a freezer. Nowadays, the new refrigerators and freezers, they aren't hot on top. So if you have an older refrigerator or freezer that still gets warm on top, you can set them on there for that. What I'm going to be doing is probably putting them in a windowsill. We have a couple of days of very warm weather coming up, and so what I do is I just set them in the windowsill and let the sun beat down on them. It warms the soil. They're still inside, so they're not in the cool breeze, and that's how I germinate my stuff. Now you can obviously have a grow mat, a heat mat that warms the soil from underneath. I don't have one of those. I've never had grow lights, and I've never had a heat mat, and I don't have a greenhouse, and I've never not been able to germinate and start my own seeds. You just have to improvise and figure out what you can do and what might work, and it takes a little bit of trial and error. My first year doing it, obviously, like, I had about half of my stuff germinate before I figured out what needed heat to germinate, what didn't, what did well. The next part of it is going to be, once they do germinate, you're going to want to keep them from getting too leggy. That's a little bit of a struggle for me with my tomatoes. What I do is I have them in my house, and I have windowsills. My house faces east-west, and so I have windows on the east and I have windows on the west. And so in the mornings I put my tomatoes on windowsills that face the east, and about every hour or two I rotate them because they'll start to lean towards the sun. And then in the afternoon, as it starts getting later and the sun's coming down in the west, I move them to the west side and again rotate. That's a lot of work. Okay, it's a lot of work, but it's not a really long time that you're doing it. You're doing it for about 6 to 8 weeks, which, when I say that, I guess that sounds like a long time to do that every day for 6 to 8 weeks. One day I will have a greenhouse, and one day I will have sun coming down from the top, and I will have, or maybe I'll have a room set up with grow lights and heat mats and everything like that. But for now, this is how I do it because I can and I love it, so I'm willing to do it. You know, because I want to, I will. If I really, really hated the thought and I didn't want to do it, I would either buy starts from a farmer's market or a flea market or a friend down the road who has a greenhouse. I don't have any friends with a greenhouse, I'm just saying. You can find someone who has and does and grows starts, and probably as a business will start and try to sell those starts. And that would be supporting a local business, and that would be great. You can buy them from a box store. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're still going to get good homegrown vegetables. Okay, so what that they're not heirloom, or so what that they may have not been started in the soil that you prefer. You're getting them as little plants, and you can feed them what you want from that point. Levi, baby, you're shaking the camera a little bit. There's a lot of options out there. You don't have to start your own seeds, and if you do want to start your own seeds, you don't have to have everything to do it. You don't have to have all the things. That's what I say. You don't need all the things to start your own seeds and grow your own stuff. And for me, this is a whole lot cheaper. Like if you're gonna buy 25 tomato plants, I showed y'all what I was doing, but then I pulled some of, hand me those down there, baby. I pulled some of these that I had, and I started more paste tomatoes in some of these because I don't have enough of these containers. And okay, so I don't have the space right now for more than 22 tomato plants, which is why I started 22 in these pots. I don't have any more pots. I did 22 tomato plants, and I filled the rest of these pots that I have with my pepper plants. But I started more tomato plants in these because, yes, I have room for 22, and I started 22. However, Levi, baby, you're shaking it. Okay, just hold on. I'm almost done. However, some of them could die, and I would have extras. And there's a possible chance that I will have a space to grow them when the time comes. I'm gonna try because I want more than what I have space for. Plus, if I don't have any dye and I don't have the space for it, y'all, I just give it away. It's like a few dollars for a whole packet of seeds, and you get so many extra plants. But my point was that exactly. That when you buy a, baby, you're still shaking it, darling. When you buy a tomato plant like this big at a store, I don't even know how much they cost anymore, but I know it's not cheap. I would imagine it's not cheap. I actually have no idea what they cost. Hang on, let me look. I looked it up, and the first thing that came up on Google was a thing from 2022 that said that they average $4 to $6 for a tomato plant, depending on the variety. That's probably not much different than that, I would imagine. So you can buy a tomato plant for, let's say, $4, and you get one plant. Or you could buy a packet of seeds. This packet of seeds was like $2 and some change, and I get potentially 25 tomato plants. Now I put a few seeds per thing. Now in the past, what I've done is I would put, like in a container this size, I would put like 20 seeds, okay? And then later, this is another Jessica Sauer's method, where she puts a whole bunch in one thing, and then she divides them out and plants them individually once they start to get bigger. Once they get like the first set of true leaves, then you carefully take it apart and separate them out and replant them in different pots, in bigger pots. That's a method. I have done that before. This year I am not. Last year I didn't, but I've done it before. But the point is, I can get a packet for a little over $2 and get potentially 25 plants versus one plant for double that amount of money. So for me, the amount of money that I would spend on these tomato plants if I were to buy them, I would rather just do a little bit of extra work and save some money. Now once my seedlings have germinated and they have their first set of true leaves, not their first sprout leaves, but the actual first set of true leaves, I start feeding them once in a while with a fish emulsion fertilizer. That's my preferred method of doing it, and I just use a spray bottle and I spray it on the soil right at the base of the plant, which is how I water. I know a lot of people bottom water, and that's great if you have like the planters or the trays, you know, like some people have. I don't have those, so I just use I don't know where my spray bottle is right now, but I just use a spray bottle and I'll spray right at the base. Don't want to spray the leaves, spray the base and soak it. And that's how I water my stuff. So that's how I do it, y'all. That is how I keep stepping on stuff. That is how I start seeds without a greenhouse and without all the things. All right, y'all, well, I'm gonna move this stuff into the house now and get it all set up. And I'm gonna say thanks for hanging out with me today. This was fun. I really enjoy starting seeds, and the beginning of this season is so exciting. I get so excited. Do you get excited, Levi?
Yes.
Yes. All right, y'all. Until next time.
Keep on the sunny side.